Now there are situations where you want the files that you've got on one computer to be on another computer. Now if that's something that happens quite rarely, then you're probably okay to copy onto a USB flash disk. Maybe you've got network attached storage, whatever. You can even email yourself a file if you wanted to, and that's fine because it happens, once a year. However, that's something that happens a lot, then there are different solutions that you could look into to make that happen automatically. Now, of course, one way is to use cloud storage. You just put everything up in the cloud and then your other device has access to the cloud. But if you don't want to use cloud storage, or you don't want to use a central server of any kind, either locally or on the cloud, then there are other ways of getting those files automatically copied around in a peer-to-peer basis. And that's what I'm going to cover in this video, how to synchronize files between Windows, Linux, Mac, Android, peer-to-peer automatically so that your files are already on your laptop, on your main PC, even on your phone or tablet, so you have instant access to them. So if you want to find out more, please let me explain. Okay, so let's get into this. Automatically sync files between Windows, Linux and Android. So what do I mean by sync? Well, sync is not the same as backup, i.e. a secure read-only place where my files are copied. Having said that, we will talk about what I'm talking about, sync, and how you can use that as a form of backup a little later. But synchronization in this context means all the files found on computer or device A are also on device B. But what happens to files on device A, so whether you edit them, delete them, rename them, whatever, also happens to the files on device B. So it's kind of a mirroring, but it's not mirroring, it's syncing, because you can have more than one. You can have more than two, you can have 3 or 4, as we'll talk about that in a second. But also inversely the same. If I edit or delete or rename or whatever a file on device B, those changes happen on device A. And that's why it's not a form of backup, because what we're really doing is just saying, I've got these set of documents that I'm working on, and the example I'm going to say, let's say I'm running a small business, I've got some customers, and each customer has got their own folder, and I've kind of got invoices and letters and bills of materials, whatever it is that I'm doing in my business. And I want to make sure they're also on my laptop, so that when I head out onto the road, I've got all the files there. I also want them on my Android phone so I can quickly pull out my device and check something. And I don't want to use cloud services. The whole point, I don't want to use any cloud services. I want to keep it all within my own stuff. So that's what we mean by sync. Now, it's not backup, because if I delete a file in one place, it will get deleted in the other place. And if I delete a file in the other place, it will get deleted on the original place. So I ain't going to back nothing up. If it's gone, it's gone. Caveat, I am going to talk about something different about that in a minute. Okay, and so that's what we mean by sync. So very useful for a working directory, a working set of files that you want ready at your fingertip on your main PC, on your laptop, on your tablet, on your Android phone, wherever you are, you can get that stuff. Oh, quick, what's that invoice I need to send to whoever? That's the idea. So let's describe that in a kind of a picture form here. So I've got 2 computers. Okay, on computer A, I've got an invoice, I've got a worksheet, I've got a cover letter. This is my small business that I'm running. Okay, and the synchronization happens, and we'll talk more about what that means in a minute. And then all those files now appear on computer B. So whatever I'm using on computer A now appears on computer B. Now, if I then change like the invoice on computer A, the next time the synchronization kicks in, it also changes on computer B. So they are kept in step, they are kept in sync. Okay, so they're always the same thing. But likewise, if I delete, look here, a file on computer B, okay, then it will get deleted on computer A. So the idea is that I'm working in the office, I head out on the road, take my laptop with me, everything's synced up. When I'm on the laptop, I kind of do things, I do some work, delete things, update things. When I get back, it all syncs again, and both A and B have the same thing. Even my mistakes, that's the right, it's not backup, get copied across everything, but also all the good stuff that I do. Now, as I said, you can do this with 3. So it's not only computer A and computer B, you can have an Android phone, a tablet, you can have 4, 5 devices that all sync with each other. And they sync in a mesh, which means if this device talks to your laptop while you're out in the field, then they'll sync with each other if they've got, over Wi-Fi or whatever. And then these two, but then if this one couldn't talk to this one, it can talk to this one. So it's a mesh in that whoever it can get the information from, it will get it from. The synchronization process makes sure that everybody's on the same page. Everybody understands the same thing. Everybody has the same files, no matter where I got it from. The cluster, the mesh, the group of computers are all in sync. Okay, just want to take a quick pause from the video to tell you something cool, something that's been a game changer for my audio setup. Now, this segment is sponsored by Mono, who have hooked me up with their PD200W hybrid podcasting microphone. Designed for podcasting and streaming and content creation, it offers greater levels of freedom because it's wireless. Declutter your desk, no more wires. You just need to plug the USB receiver into your computer. For even more freedom, you can just plug the receiver into your iPhone or Android phone, giving you a completely mobile pro setup. Now you are free to record anywhere, anytime, at your desk, on the sofa, even outside. Ah, but outside is noisy, I hear you say. And that's true, but no worries, because the PD200W Hybrid has got 3 levels of noise cancellation. And now noise cancelling is switched on. Now, look at the difference between this and when I speak into my phone directly. This is me speaking directly into my phone. Can you hear the background noise? Now, wireless means freedom. Well, how much freedom? Up to 60 meters. On top of that, there's up to 60 hours of battery life. Now, if you do the maths, think about that. That's actually 2 hours of recording a day for a month. There are also apps for Android and iOS, so you can configure and control the PDW200 Hybrid. If you're using it on a desktop, Mono has you covered with software for Windows and macOS. This mic makes it effortless to blend wireless freedom with pro-level clarity. Whether you're podcasting or streaming or doing content creation, or you just need clarity in those online meetings, the PD200W Hybrid does it all. So if you're curious about leveling up your audio setup, then check out the link in the description below. Now, to do this magical thing, we're going to use a piece of software called Syncthing. Now, Syncthing is brilliant because it allows you to do all this synchronization between your different computers, and none of your data is stored anywhere else other than on your computers. No cloud services, no central computer that might get hacked and they run off with all your data. It's all just on your stuff. It also employs encryption. So as you're syncing between your devices, it's all encrypted. There's lots of authentication. Every device is identified by a strong cryptographic signature. Only devices that you explicitly say, I want this phone, my phone, to connect to this little network that we've got going here. I want this laptop to sync with this laptop. Doesn't happen without your permission. It's all open protocol. There's a full documentation on how it handles all this stuff, how it does all the syncing, and it's completely open source. So the source code is available there on GitHub. Now, it's available for Windows, for macOS, and for Linux, and I'm going to be using and Android. I'm going to be using Linux and Windows and Android. Now, on the Windows side, there is a Windows setup. This is just a quick screen from one of the steps in the wizard. You install it just like you would any piece of software. You double click on that setup exe. You do next, next, next. You can look at the options as you go along. It installs fine, and it runs Syncthing automatically every time you boot your PC. Syncthing is going to be running. You can also use it on Linux now. A lot of the distributions come with it available in their repositories, but sometimes they are a bit behind the main one. So they give you some instructions here, for example, on Debian and Ubuntu on how to add the official repositories and get that installed. It's available for other Linux distributions as well. And on Android, I'm using Syncthing Fork, which is an implementation, not even an implementation, really a wrapper actually, of Syncthing around a GUI that you can use on Android. Now, once you've got it all up and running and installed, basically on Windows, you can type in on the start menu Syncthing configuration page. Okay, and it's a shortcut which will basically launch the browser. So there is no built-in native graphic user interface except for an Android. But on most systems, you use a web interface and you just browse to this address here. That means my local machine, my machine, port 8384, and it will bring up the configuration page for Syncthing, which we're going to go through now in a second. So you can access it via the browser. On Windows, you can use this shortcut, which will just open up a browser for that page. On Android, you've got a bit of an interface that I'll show you in a minute. Okay, this is what the web interface for Syncthing looks like. This is my Windows PC. Now we're going to be switching around to different views of things as we go from one machine to another, because obviously we're dealing with multiple machines, but hopefully it should be evident which window I'm in and what I'm talking about. So here we are on my Windows PC, and first what I'm going to do is add a folder. And what you need to do is go and say, where is that folder? If I put in tilde, that means the same as C users Gary S. That's my home directory. And then under that, I've got a folder called customers, and I'm going to call it customers, and I'm going to call it customers. Okay, so we go ahead and we've now added that folder. But nothing else happens. First of all, it's not shared with any other devices. And secondly, there are no other remote devices. So at the moment, it's just pretty simple. So first of all, let's add another remote device. Now I've got this running also on a Raspberry Pi. So we're going to say add remote device. And there it is. It's detected that there in the that it's on my local network. Now, if you want to, you can go up here and you can go show ID. And it gives you this very, very long number here. So actually what's happening is that it's found that automatically. If I don't have it, you can go to show ID, you can use this QR code, you can copy it, you can send it by email so that you can cut and paste that in instead. But here I've got local discovery running, so I'm going to say, yep, I'll have that other device, please. So there it is, it's another device, and nothing happens at the moment because the other device has to accept the fact that it wants to enter into this little mesh network, this little sync network. So let's go over to the Raspberry Pi 5 device now. Okay, here so I am on the Raspberry Pi 5. I'm using a slightly different theme, a darker theme, so we can see the difference. And you notice here there's this thing that's come up and says that the other machine, the Ryzen 5, wants to talk to you. Do you want to add that? So I say yes, go ahead and do it. And we can just say save. And so now both machines are actually talking that they are connected to each other. Okay, so now back on my Windows machine, we can see this Pi 5 is actually connected but unused because there's no sharing going on. But the two devices are talking to each other. Everything's green and great. So now I can go over here and I can say customers, and I can say, well, let's edit this. And I go over to sharing, and I want to share it with that Pi 5, which is my only option because it's the only machine that we've got connected. So I can say, yes, do that. Now we also have to accept that folder being shared on the other machine. Nothing happens by automatically without you knowing. So now it's saying it wants to share the customer's folder. Yes, I want to be part of that. Let's do that. Okay, and now it will start syncing. Now let's go over to File Explorer to see what I've got in that folder. So here it is, it's Gary Customers, as I said. I've got two customers, Bob the Builder and Ralph Wiggum, and I've got a to-do file in that one, and I've got an invoice in that one. Okay, so those are the files that were on my Windows machine. Now here on the Pi 5, you can see Home Gary Customers, I've got Bob the Builder, and I've got Ralph Wiggum. Well, let's go into here and let's just say new file, and we're going to call it also to-do. Let's just call it to do Ralph.text. Okay, and item 1, item 2. Okay, so now I've made this change on the Raspberry Pi. Okay, and now in the background, Syncthing will be talking, and this will automatically be updated on my Windows machine. So here we are back on Windows, and now if I go into the Ralph Wiggum directory, look at that, to do Ralph. And as you'd expect, it's got those two items because it's the same file. So sharing things across the different machines is really easy. Now, whatever I do on one will happen on the other. And this just runs now in the background very easily. Now, the next thing to do is add my Android device. So I've got it running on my Android phone. So over here on my Windows machine, I could do this on the Linux machine. I'm going to say add remote device. And now there's another remote device appeared in here with a different unique number. And this is my Android device. So I can say, yes, I want to add that. Now over on the Android device, sometimes you get you either get a notification saying that another device is trying to add, or you can go into the web GUI, and then that same message will come up as you've seen on the other two devices. I just say add device, and that now appears under my list of devices. And likewise, back on my Windows PC, I can go into this customers folder, and I can say I want to share it with someone else. Well, now look here, there's another device that I've got connected, which is my smartphone. It's an Asus. I can say, yes, I want to share it with that. And just like on the other ones, you need to accept that sharing. So I've got a message come up here saying, do you want to share it? Yes, I do. And it's important that I add the path to that. And I'm going to put it in /storage emulator 0 customers, which is basically the internal SD card. And we're going to go ahead and save that. So now you can see here on Android that it's pointing out that I've got a folders being synced and it's customers. So now, in fact, if I just click on this little icon here, it will bring up a file explorer, and you can see there you go, Bob the Builder, okay, and Ralph. Okay, and they're all there. So everything you expect. Now, if I did something on here, for example, I can edit this, and we're going to add in here item 4, and then I'm going to put in brackets added on Android. Okay, save that. And then after the resync happens, which is almost real time, it just comes up straight away. Then I'm going to see that same thing happening both across both other machines. So I go into Bob the Builder to do, and then we can see item 4 added on Android. And just for completeness, we'll go into it on the Raspberry Pi, item 4 added on Android. So you can see I've now got 3 machines running that are syncing with each other, and it's all happening just automatically in the background. No matter what changes I make in one place happens in the others. Now at this point it's worth mentioning file versioning. I said at the very beginning of this video that you can use this as a way of doing kind of a backup. So Syncthing supports archiving the old versions of a file. So when you change the file, or when it's deleted or replaced with a newer version, then the old version is saved. So it's file versioning. Okay, and it uses a file versioning strategy, which we'll talk about in a minute. And you do that on a per folder, per device basis. Now, what the good thing about that is if you have a kind of a server, you could be a network attached storage, or it could just be a PC that you've got with quite a big hard drive. You can turn on versioning just on that device. So the other devices, like your smartphone, won't keep the versioning. You're not going to go back and have all the versions using up all your flash storage on your smartphone. But that big server you've got with terabytes of hard drives on it, okay, that can keep all the different old versions, and you can go back to that one and say, actually, I want that version back because I edited it by mistake, I deleted it by mistake, it's gone, I need that old version back, I need the version back from last week, whatever, and you'll be able to go and get it. And that's why you can use this as a type of backup. Now, the file versioning strategies, there are several, but the 3 main ones are this: trash can versioning, which basically means you've got one version that's saved in the trash can, and at any point you can go to the trash can and say, give me that last version. But if you've done 2 things, 2 changes to any one file, this is not to any two changes to one file, then the first change is gone. In simple file versioning, you keep several versions of it, so you can say, okay, I want the last 5 versions, please, and it will keep 5. You could keep 50 if you wanted to, so you're able to go back quite a long way. And staggered file versioning keeps multiple versions, and there's also an age that can be applied. So you can say everything after a month just drops off, just gets deleted out. Anything after 30 days, don't worry about it. And you can pick what versioning strategy you use. I like simple file versioning because I know that there are 30 versions, 5 versions, whatever, hanging around that I can go back to at any time. Okay, now for the file versioning, let's just say that I want here on my Raspberry Pi, let's say I put a huge hard disk on it, a huge SSD, okay, and I want to go in here and I want to edit it, and I want to go to file versioning. And at the moment there is no file versioning. And remember, this only applies to this machine, so the file version will only happen on this machine. It won't happen on my Android phone or the other devices. And I'm going to go with simple file versioning. Up to 5 versions can be kept. Everything else is fine. Now if I enable that, then what happens now, if I go back to my Windows machine and edit one of those files, Bob the Builder, to-do.txt, there was item 4 added, okay, and now we're going to go with item 5 added on Windows. I know this is not very exciting, but that's the reality of it. Okay, now once all of that happens, we can go back to the Raspberry Pi now and see that that has taken effect. And there we go, added on Windows. But if we go back to the web interface, now when we go in here, notice there's this versions button here. So I can click on that and it says, well, yes, actually, if you wanted to know, there is a version of To Do here. And look, there's one here that was earlier on. So I can actually say, restore that, please. It will go ahead and restore it. Are you sure you want to restore it? Yes, I do want to restore it. And if we now look on the Raspberry Pi in that file, the added on Windows bit is gone because I've restored it to a previous version. And that change has now been synchronized through all my machines. So restoring previous versions, once you restore them, they also get synchronized with all the other devices. So there you go. Okay, that's it. My name's Gary Sims. This is Gary Explains. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up. If you like these kind of videos, then why not stick around by subscribing to the channel? If you want to support the channel, then please join using one of the memberships. Okay, that's it. I'll see you in the next one.